All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going to try and untangle three massive ideas: the language we all use to create meaning, the power that shapes our societies, and, of course, that endless political tug of war between left and right. It's a fight we all know, but we're going to look at it through a totally new lens. So, let's start with a thought that might just flip the script. We're so used to seeing politics as this brutal fight to the finish. One side has to win, the other has to lose. But what if that's the wrong way to look at it? What if the real goal isn't victory at all, but something more like equilibrium? To really get this, we have to grasp a pretty foundational idea. See, every single human society, no matter how big or small, basically runs on two different but deeply connected systems of communication. It's all about how we talk versus how we actually govern. Let's break that down a bit. On one side, you've got language. This is the flow of our ideas, our knowledge, our culture, our social norms. It's kind of like the software that helps us all coordinate. But language by itself can't actually enforce anything. That's where politics comes in. Politics is the structured language of power. It's the system that takes all our shared ideas and expectations and forges them into formal, enforceable rights and laws. Okay, so this brings us to that familiar political spectrum and to a really fascinating paradox. Because when you take the core ideas of the left and the right and you push them all the way to their logical extremes, something really weird starts to happen. Good intentions can go completely off the rails. So at one end of the spectrum, you have systems that are all about individual autonomy. The goal sounds great, right? Maximize personal freedom, usually through things like limited government and free markets. Then at the other end, you have systems built on collective authority. And again, the goal sounds pretty noble: maximize social equality, usually through state intervention and control. Both sides start with a really positive vision for how society should work. But here's the first twist. Those systems that are designed to create maximum equality, they can end up creating this massive state bureaucracy that actually starts restricting personal freedoms and concentrates a ton of power in the hands of the government. The very opposite of a truly equal society where everyone has their own agency. And guess what? The paradox works both ways. Systems designed for maximum freedom can lead to massive economic inequality and a huge concentration of power, but this time in private hands. And this creates a world where, for a lot of people, freedom is just a word on a piece of paper because they don't have the practical means to actually use it. And this really gets to the heart of the problem. Both extremes, even though they start from completely opposite beliefs, can end up in a surprisingly similar place: a state of serious imbalance, where the noble goals they started with are totally lost. So if that straight line, that political spectrum we're so used to, leads to these paradoxes, what's the alternative? Well, this next section introduces a brand new way of thinking about it. The idea is to stop seeing politics as a static line and start seeing it more like a dynamic system of forces. The key concept here is called the kinematics of rights. I know, it sounds a little academic, but think of it like physics. A political system isn't just sitting still. It's constantly shifting and adjusting under different pressures: the push for more individual freedom, the pull for greater social equality, and the basic need for stability. It's a continuous, non-stop balancing act. Now, this balancing act doesn't happen at some single perfect point. Instead, it operates inside a kind of sweet spot, a dynamic zone where a society can actually function and thrive. We can call this the balance axis. And this is absolutely crucial. This balance axis is not some bland 50-50 compromise. It is not about just being a centrist. It's a dynamic zone where the system is flexible enough to constantly adjust, making sure that everyone's rights are being protected as effectively as possible. So what does this zone of balance actually look like in the real world? Well, it seems to require four essential conditions, all working together. First, you need strong civil liberties: freedom of speech, rule of law, the basics. Second, you need social guarantees so that people can actually use those liberties. Third, you need institutions with real checks and balances to prevent power from getting too concentrated. And finally, you need a government that's actually capable of enforcing the laws and making it all work. But even if you have all the right rules and all the right institutions, there is one more piece to this puzzle. It's like the invisible glue that holds the entire system together. It's something deeper than laws. It's the power of shared belief.
This is called ethical consciousness, and you can think of it as another kind of language for society. While our spoken language creates a shared world of meaning, our ethical consciousness creates a shared world of morality, a collective gut feeling about what is fair, just, and legitimate. Without this shared understanding, laws are just words on a page. This belief is what gives political power its legitimacy and keeps the whole system stable.
And this isn't a one-way street, not at all. It's a living feedback loop. Our ethics shape our political institutions. Those institutions then create results in the real world. And those results, good or bad, feed back and either reinforce or challenge our original ethical beliefs. It's constantly evolving. Okay, so let's pull all of this together. If we understand how all these interconnected layers work, it points to a completely new goal for how we should think about politics, a goal that moves us way beyond the simple idea of winning and losing. So here's how it all fits together in a simple model. You can think of society operating on 3 layers of communication. At the top, the cognitive layer. We've got the language of ideas, which transmits meaning. In the middle, the institutional layer. We have the language of politics and power, which regulates our rights. And at the bottom, the normative layer. We have the language of our shared ethics, which is what gives that power legitimacy. All 3 have to be in sync for the system to really work. And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway. The objective isn't to create some ideologically pure libertarian or socialist state. The real goal should be to build a system that can maintain a kinetic balance, a dynamic, always adjusting equilibrium that is laser-focused on one primary mission, preserving the rights of its people. And that, of course, leaves us with a final, really pressing question for our own time. In a world that feels more polarized than ever, where pretty much everything is framed as a zero-sum battle, how do we start to shift our focus? How do we start building political systems that are designed not for total victory, but for sustainable balance?